Understand the perils and pitfalls of buying on margin is attorney Janice Malecki, principal of the law office of Janice Malecki, right here in New York. It's Monday morning. First of all, let's start off by just talking about exactly what margin is, because I think it's a difficult thing for a lot of people to understand.
Margin is borrowing money from a brokerage firm. So let's say you can buy 100 shares of Corporation A. If you buy on margin, you can buy up to 50% of your initial investment of equity. So you can buy 200 shares of Corporation A, for example. And then the brokerage firm will hold the securities you buy as collateral for that loan, as well as anything else in your portfolio.
So it's similar to a mortgage. There's collateral.
Correct. The only difference is that it'll also attach to other things in your securities portfolio. So if you had already purchased a lot of other securities in your account, then they can actually use that as collateral also, which is important. If there is a change in market structure, then they can sell both the securities you purchased as well as other securities in your account.
Which I think people don't realize. So it can be a stock that you have held since, your parents bought it for you when you were born, and they can still go ahead and sell that without you really knowing.
Absolutely. They have to act in a commercially reasonable manner. I mean, it is sort of a controversial doctrine, but they are required to act commercially reasonable. However, in a volatile market, they can sell you out at any time. In a normal market, they can probably sell you out anywhere between 2 and 5 days after they've issued what's known as a margin call.
Yeah, I wanted to get into exactly what that is, because we hear about margin calls every time the market starts to sink dramatically. We hear about margin calls contributing to the sell-off, accelerating the sell-off. What's a margin call?
Okay. When you buy on margin, you have to have at least a minimum equity in your account of 25% under industry regulation. However, some firms have even a higher requirement, like 35 to 40%, meaning that that's how much equity you have to have in the account. So let's say you borrow, let's say 100% of your initial investment. So you bought 100 shares and then you borrowed for 100 shares. You owe that amount for that 100 shares, whether or not the price goes up or down from your initial purchase. So as the price goes down, you're owing more than you actually have in equity. You can't fall below 25%. If you fall below 25% equity in the account, then they issue what's known as a margin call. They're asking you to put additional money in to save your investment.
And if you don't?
And if you don't, they can sell you out of that investment and anything else in your portfolio to cover their margin loan to you.
Janice, give us the profile of the investor for whom this kind of using a margin is really a good thing.
It's really only good for a very speculative investor, because what most people don't know is that you can lose not only what you've invested, but more than that. You could wind up not only losing all the securities in your account, but you could owe the brokerage firm money. I've seen cases where there's been $600,000, $1 million owed to a brokerage firm as a result of margin trading. So it's truly only for those who can afford to lose all of their investment and more than that.
And we mentioned in the introduction to you that it's especially risky for those who are using online brokerages. Why is that an extra layer of risk?
Absolutely. Online brokerages at this point in time, although yet another controversial doctrine, are trying to limit their responsibility to their customers. They are basically saying, we're just a portal for you to execute orders. Although that's in controversy. You're basically dealing with call centers, and you're dealing with technical systems, trading systems. So if their computers are down, and in a volatile market, they may not have the support in their technological and back office in order to actually get all the orders executed in a timely fashion. So you're at the risk of actually even just getting your order to the marketplace, because you're not picking up the phone and talking to someone live in most cases. Although you can, there's usually a great delay when you're trying to call these call centers that these online brokerages have in order to get your order executed. And then also the routing through the technical systems. If there's a slight glitch in the system, any problem, then your order's not going to make it to market, and you're going to be sold out at the worst possible time.
You were saying for whom it would be best would be someone who can afford to lose all of their investment, and yet we all have seen so many people do this kind of investing. Those numbers have certainly tapered off, haven't they, with all the volatility we've seen?
I would say last April, a lot of people got clobbered in the market. There was that market correction in a lot of the tech stocks last April, and a lot of people got burned then and have pulled back from margin trading. But there's been an enormous increase in margin borrowing over the past, I'd say, 5 years.
And it isn't terribly expensive. It's around 10%.
Yeah,
so
8 to 10%.
The rate isn't bad on the margin loan. It's just you have to be prepared to pay it off in a big hurry.
Right, and it better be the speculative portion of your portfolio.
Denise Malecki, thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for
You're welcome.
joining
Thank
us
you.
today.